Well, hello, I'm 𝗍𝗶𝗱. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be covering my Rippa R13 mini excavator. This video is going to cover a bunch of cheap to free modifications that are just going to make your machine work a lot better. We're also going to cover some simple tips for maintenance. And if I've had any problems, we're going to go over that, what problems I've had in the last 36 hours of operating this machine, and how I went about remedying them. So stick around, enjoy the video. So about 80% of the Zerk fittings on this machine are these flush style, and they work pretty good once you clean the paint out of them. They've all been painted, so you want to clean up the ball on them. Press it down onto it and pump some grease in till the grease comes out on the sides. But like I said, 80% of them are this style. There are some regular nipple style Zerks on here. I'm going to go through and switch out everything. I got a set of metric Zerks I'm going to put on here. But you can see it came with quite a few nipple style Zerks. There's some regular Zerks right in here, but I'm going to switch a lot of these out. So this is a really simple one. We're starting off real basic here. Just getting rid of all the flush mount Zerks. They're good if you're digging in the dirt. You're not going to break them off as much, but honestly, I like this style of Zerk much better. I got a little kit here. I'll put a link below on Amazon for all the different metric sizes you're going to want. Really basic. This machine has, I don't know, 25, 27 Zerks I've counted, somewhere in that range. So quite a few. This machine also runs pins and bushings, really quality hardened pins. I've been happy with the Rippa stuff. It seems like a cut above. So yeah, first thing we're going to do is just swap out all these Zerks. And real rule of thought I do with this is when I'm going to fill it up with diesel, I'm going to go through and give every Zerk a pump or two of grease. So it's good to keep your machine well maintained. Now, as stylish as these quilted, pleated floor mats are, I'm going to get rid of this thing. I got some heavy-duty industrial conveyor belt here, and I'm going to use this as kind of a template. I'm going to cut a new floor mat here because I want to cover up some things like, I think some of the models might have had a lever in here. Just more opportunity for mud and things to get down underneath the floor pan. So I'm going to pull this off, use it as a rough template, and cut a better floor mat. Like I said, those old floor mats there, they're stylish, but they don't work very well. They slip around a lot. If you don't have access to a conveyor belt like this, maybe consider using a car floor mat or something rubber like that. Something that's going to be non-slip, so when you step up on and off the machine, it's not wiggling around under your feet. Simple, basic upgrade, but I think it's well worth it. So I got this all adjusted up. I had to adjust the latch up and out a little bit to accommodate for the rubber. So now the seal drops down and holds the mat down in place, and it seems like a pretty good fit. Super nice and tight. No debris can fall down into that slot down where the valve is and everything. And yeah, should be a pretty good little mat. Simple upgrade. Now onto the ROPS. The ROPS on this machine is far more sturdy, even if it's a two-post design. It's far more sturdy than my old R319 ROPS. That was two-post, but it just shook around like crazy. This one's much more robust. This upgrade made it so I can pivot it. Got rid of the original bolts that came with it. Bought some big 5/8" bolts for it to pivot on, and bought some trailer pins on Amazon. Links below to that. Shortened them up a little bit, narrowed them, and then re-drilled them. Nice thing about this is I can take my machine, fold it down, park it in my shop out of the rain, bring it back out in a matter of a minute. I can fold up the ROPS, get it pinned and ready to go. Nice, simple setup. For these ROPS pins, I ended up just buying, I think, a 3 or 4 pack of these little trailer pins. These are for your receiver, and cut them down, took a little bit off of them, and then just re-drilled a hole for the cotter pin. Is a pretty affordable solution, and bought some 5/8 bolts and put them down here, snugged them down so it has a little resistance, but it can still pivot on that, and put a little bit of a adhesive foam on here to keep them from rattling and chattering as much. Really simple. So again, the really nice thing about this is you can fold that ROPS down in about a minute, park it in a little outbuilding like this. It doesn't take up much space, especially when you narrow up the footprint of the machine by bringing in the tracks and narrowing up the blade. And you can just tuck it away out of the rain when you're not using it. Really simple. So I'm going to jump ahead here while we're talking about the ROPS. I've had some people think that they are really corny looking on this machine and I should take it off. Like, the ROPS on this machine is actually pretty well built, and I go through and take it off in a future part of the video to do some maintenance. So we're going to show a little weigh-in test. It's about 65 pounds of bar that goes above over your head, so it's actually got a fair amount of weight to it. Of the ROPS here, get it balanced on here, about 24 pounds. Pretty substantial. This is definitely a really well built ROPS. Let me see if I can balance it on here. about 37.5. So pretty solid. So one of my subscribers in my previous review videos of this R13 mentioned it's too bad I didn't have a promo code available. Well, I wanted to let you guys know I do have one now, and this is for 𝗣𝗂𝗃 Texas. It's for $500 off the R13 or R15 mini excavator, and that's 𝗣𝗶𝗶 500. More information in the link below, but basically use that promo code at checkout and it'll save you $500 on either of those machines. So this is a really simple bucket upgrade for the stock 11-inch bucket. This is definitely a must if you own one of these machines. I did this exact same upgrade on my Rippa R13 after I started bending out and flaring the bucket. I'm using my ArcDroid CNC. There's a link below if you want to check out more about that in a video. But honestly, you could just cut some plate steel, drill some holes in it, grind off some paint off your bucket, weld on some thickeners. These are like 3/16 to 1/4 inch is probably all you need. And it could just be some flat bar that goes down the side. It just gives it a little bit more strength so the bucket doesn't flare out. Real simple mod. So here's the bucket, probably 25 hours at least onto this after I welded these plates on here. The old bucket on my R319, I rolled onto a big rock in this area and it flared it out. And these side cutting teeth, just by clamping bigger stuff in here, they started to flare. So that's why I did that mod on my original. There'll be a link below in the description if you want to check that the full video. But really simple, welded on here. They're holding up really well, nothing's bending. You don't have to have a CNC to do this. You can just put a piece of flat bar in there and cut it to shape, drill some holes in it, bolt it back on, clamp it and weld it, good to go. No flaring whatsoever on there. Another simple mod, links below for this. I got these hooks on Amazon. I think they're 2-ton hooks. Welded one on here on the back of the bucket just so you can put a strapper chain in there and lift small stuff. I mean, it's useful. It doesn't really get in the way for digging at all, but it's sure nice to have just a lifting strap on there for just lifting something out of the back of a truck. I mean, it's a useful, simple mod. So I'm getting into this housing here, taking the ROPS off, which is kind of a pain. It's not the easiest to take off, and honestly, you shouldn't have too much, but I'm putting some switch covers on up here to keep your knees from bumping these, because that's kind of gets old after a while, especially the fast and slow travel. Sometimes this adjustable carriage gets bumped. But this is going to be the second time I've had to do this. The detent in the spring detent in this thing becomes loose, and you'll have it at higher RPM. It'll slowly work its way down to a lower RPM. It gets worse and worse, and it just gets more frustrating. You turn it up, and then a few minutes later from this thing bumping around, it's down again. So one thing I'm going to do is get in here, see if I can fix the detent on this a little bit better. And I might even shorten the handle, because the handle really does not need to stick that far out. It just seems vulnerable at that point. So I'm going to modify that and probably shorten it up. So here's the throttle assembly here. Pulls up and down on this cable, throttle cable, pretty good size, much bigger than bicycle cable. It doesn't really have anything good for a detent here. It just goes through this housing and a nut on the other side. So I think I'm going to buy some friction washers and place them here and here, or maybe just a lock washer on there, something to add a little bit of tension to this thing. And I think by shortening this, we'll keep it out of the way and less weight kind of bouncing this thing down. One other thing I wanted to do in here is since I got it, this lever's been tighter. This one has had more travel. And it's just this connection here being a little loose. That nut just needs to be tightened down a little more. And we can get to the top of these switches and drill and tap little covers for this. So I got these levers so they have the same amount, a little bit of play in them. Went through, held this one over here, and then tightened this down. That was the only thing that was loose. This side I found was a tiny bit loose after I got this one snugged up better. And this one I tightened down. But I also noticed that these don't have lock nuts at the base of them. Instead of disassembling this a little deeper, I just put a little blue Loctite on them, because I don't really want these knobs coming out of travel adjustment. Blue Loctite should hold them just fine. Now onto the throttle. So update on the handle. I cut a section of it out about 1.5 inches here and re-welded it. I put one of these rubber grommets in right down here to add some friction. I think that's just going to blow out. But what I did was I did feel like the nylock on the back side of here was kind of worn out, as backing off. So I put some blue Loctite on it, put a new nut on there with nylock, and put a lock washer on here as well. Maybe it's supposed to have one, it didn't. So it has nice resistance now, and I think it's going to stay that way. I kind of torqued it down a little extra, so it takes a little more force, but I think that should be good. And this whole handle's shorter, so it shouldn't use as much leverage from weight and bouncing around to pull it down either. So I think that should do it. So I bought these handles at Home Depot for like $2.50 a handle. They're just little drawer pulls, and I wanted something that was smooth on the edges so you would never catch your pant leg or anything going over this and cause it to fall. But I'm just going to mount these things just like that. And I think it should provide enough to keep the switches from getting smacked when you step over this. I wish they were out a little further, but the further out I put them, the more you're going to have a lip here that might catch your pant leg, and don't want that. So gonna do something like that on here, and then we can button this front panel up. Just want to make sure there's no wires you're going to be drilling into and catching. So for the $7 these little drawer pull handles cost me at Home Depot, I just dug through there. I had like 20 different styles. I found these, so I felt like they wouldn't catch your pant leg very much climbing over it. Definitely offers a nice little bit of protection to the switches. Well worth it. In case you missed it, I have a full 36-minute review of this R13 mini excavator. It probably took me 2.5 months of operating this thing to get all the video footage and go over all the topics, but it's very detailed. If you're interested in this R13, I think you're going to find that video super helpful to watch, so link below in the description for that video. So the thumbs held up really well. I picked up lots of logs, rocks, metal, scrap, things like that. And 36 hours, I don't have any bending of the teeth or anything like some of the cheaper models that you see some people complain about on forums from different makes and models. But no, I've never had a problem with either of my Rippas with the thumbs. They've been super solid. Plus, I really like how it sits right up against the dipper like this. But one thing I don't like, both of my R319 and the R13 is this way, is this is the main pin it pivots on. Well, these two 1/2-inch ears are somewhere in that range, thickness wise. That's where all the pressure is, and sooner or later these are going to wallow out because there's no way to grease them. So I turned this on the lathe. I think you could go as simple as just getting some 25mm ID tubing and do the same thing without a lathe, but I drilled it and tapped it for a grease fitting. I'm going to weld this right in here. All that load on the thumb from opening, closing, and clamping stuff won't be on these two ears. It'll be spanned between all this as well. Plus, you can put grease into it. So I want to take care of this before this wears out, because sooner or later it's going to happen. Whenever you weld on any machine, it's always good to disconnect the battery. So I'm just going to use the battery isolator here and turn it off. The pin is held up very well. Even though you see some marks on here, but it's actually not stepped at all. All the pins on this machine are all hardened. I tried to drill through one pin when I first got the machine because I got one of the wrong pins sent out to me. And I destroyed 2 drill bits trying to drill a little bolt hole through the pin, and it barely nicked the surface. So they are definitely hardened pins on this machine. And everything's got bushings in it. I'll put a little shot of some of the bushings up here so you guys can see the bushing points. All these pivot points have bushings, so that's why I'm just not sure why they did this on this exact one, because sooner or later this is going to wear. Maybe this is heat hardened too, I don't know, but I'm just going to go ahead and weld that part in there. Now, I'm not sure why Rippa does that and they don't fill in that little section on the thumb, because the machine's really well thought out and everything's got zerks and bushings and hardened pins. So I don't know if there's an extra option that we don't maybe get or I don't know about that fits in that location. But all in all, I think this is a good upgrade and it's greasable. It should last years on this machine with this little modification. Quick disconnects that came with my machine are in a box, and they didn't fit these, which is weird. So I just went for these ones. I've been using these on my skid steer. The thread inside of here on the quick disconnects, I think they're 3/8 national pipe thread, and they're called 3/8 flat face. I'm going to set this up so I can quick disconnect these and not spill hydraulic fluid anytime I use my tilting bucket. This will be nice, just getting all my attachments set up with it. A little bit of an investment and screwing around with trying to find the right couplers and fittings, but all said and done, it'll be worth it in the long run. So here's some hydraulic fittings commonly found on these machines, except for the center one. Here you go. These are what's found on these little mini excavators. This one is an adapter I ordered. You can find these on Amazon and eBay for adapting thumbs and different equipment. This is a DIN Light 10 metric fitting to DIN Light 8. These are all German fittings. This is a 3/8 𝗶𝗶𝗶 going into the hydraulic valve body, the manual one up there by the thumb. And this cap comes off of here. And if I took some pliers and removed this plug, this would pull out of there. And this is a DIN Light 10. I got rid of that, and I bought this from the local hydraulic shop. Definitely check your local hydraulic shops, take your parts in. They're pretty good about matching stuff up. This again is a 𝗶𝗶𝗶 3/8 that I got with a nice bonded rubber washer on here, going to 3/8 national pipe thread. This will fit all my quick disconnect couplers, but it'll be these flat face style. And these I've been finding for 30 some bucks a set on Amazon. Put a link below to those. So to clarify a few things, this is the manual valve that I can turn for auxiliary ports that would be down here, or push the flow out into my hydraulic thumb. Figuring out right up here, it came stock with this setup on here. This side that goes into the valve body here, 𝗶𝗶𝗶, DIN Light number 10. And instead of trying to find a DIN Light number 10 to pipe 3/8 for my quick couplers, I got rid of that, went to a hydraulic shop. So this is British Standard Pipe Parallel, the O-ring, to 3/8 pipe, because that fits these quick couplers I've been running off of Amazon on all my equipment. So they have the same stuff on my skid steer and this. So this will thread right into here. All right, got this thing warmed up. Went back in the shop and changed the oil for the first time. I got about 5 hours on it. I'm not gonna worry about the filter, but I want to change the oil. I don't know what oil's in here, if it's break-in oil or what it is, so I'm gonna get that freshened up. So the reason I'm covering the oil change on this is because the drain plug is extremely hard to get to, so I'll show you the workaround for that. Now, because this machine is a 0 tail swing, it's ultra compact. I mean, really, really compact. And I was wondering about if I was going to be able to get to the drain bolt or not. And remember, the R13 is the 0 tail swing model. The R10 and the R15 aren't. So I think the R15 and R10 have a much bigger engine bay when you get the diesel engine in it, and that would all be sitting back. Let's see if I get the camera down here. I can't get to the drain bolt on this thing. I can see it. No, it's right there. And you could get a wrench in there. It's gonna pour all over your swivel down here, but I'm not gonna mess with that. I was wondering if I was gonna be able to get to that or not. I got one of these borrowed from a friend of mine, and I'm just going to use this to extract the oil for its first oil change. Adapted it to a small line. It might take a few minutes to drain it out. It's not a make or break on here, but keep in mind the R10, R15 with the bigger back end, a little more junk in the trunk, might be easier to access that on the diesel model. I don't know, but simple alternative is use this vacuum oil extruder. So like I said, this little Venturi tank works pretty well. You run air into it, goes through a Venturi, creates vacuum in the tank, draws all the oil out of the crankcase to the dipstick hole, and no mess, goes all in there. It's a workaround for that drain plug being in a god-awful location. While I'm hanging out here looking at this engine while I'm waiting for this oil to drain out of it, one thing that's pretty cool, the Kubota engine actually does say, see if you can get this without the glare on the thing, does say made in Japan right down here. Pretty neat little quality engine. But I was checking out all the wiring looms in here. Do have some pretty good labeling. You're not going to see this on many things, so it's kind of neat they did it. It says flame out right here, and that goes to the fuel cutoff solenoid to shut off the fuel to the diesel. Right up here, this label says B power. I think somewhere on the alternator it says something about B generator power. So things are labeled in here. Right over here it says water temp, so that's a water temp sensor wiring right there. So a lot of this wiring does have labeling on it. Set up pretty well, easy to get to the alternator. I think they're a 20 amp alternator on here. Easy to get to the starter, easy to check the oil, easy to get to the oil filter. Unfortunately, very hard to get to the oil drain on this model because the engine's so far forward and so compact. Good to go. That little Kubota engine's so awesome. Without oil filter, I used 2 3/4 quarts, maybe 3, right in that range. Well, I hope you found the video helpful, entertaining, and got some good information out of it. All these simple mods are cheap to free, and I think they're going to make the machine work a lot better. Just really basic stuff. But overall, for the 36 hours I got in the machine, it's been working really, really well. If you were interested in the full-length review on this machine, I'll put a link below. If you haven't seen that yet, you're going to get a lot of questions answered. But if you have any other questions about this machine, leave in the description below in the comment section, and I'll be happy to try to answer them in a future video or just answer them in the comments. All right, until next time, take care. Bye.